it feels like it right here. I love seeing all of you enjoying your snacks. Thank you so much to Danielle and the culinary experts at So as you're settling in, just a handful of announcements. What I'd like to first do is welcome all of you to our annual SAS Symposium. Not currently in a blizzard, which is nice. So we are always so thrilled to have all of you together in this learning community. Today is professional development led by our very own Celine, and this year we have county-wide experts joining us from WISD. So thank you for being here, participating, your engagement, enthusiasm makes it all worthwhile. I'd like to start by introducing two new faces of our leadership team to you. We have Kim Jasper joining us from Violin. She's the new middle school principal. So he will be helping with our thinking process and our progress around our DEI goals in the district. He's technically housed here at the high school up on the 3rd floor, but he's a district level employee. Will be working pre-K through young adult and being a flat partner with you on our DEI work. He's been touring around the district, getting to know the buildings, and will be making progress getting to all of you and your pieces, names, and what you do across the next couple of months. So welcome to Kim and Ryan. And then, of course, a quick thank you. We could not do this without Kelly and Jen, who organized the symposium, all of the different sessions, and made this happen. So wherever Jen is, there she is back there, and Kelly, I want to make sure that we do a big shout out to them. It's no small feat to organize all of the different staff members within the space here, and make it happen so smoothly with reminders. So please give them a round of applause as well. This year, not that the ISD doesn't do a fabulous job, but they really stepped up this year. It involved a lift to actually get up to the projector because somebody, I'm not sure who, but I'm probably thinking of the high school variety, took the remote control and did it easy. So there's nothing to do with the projector except get on that big old lift and get it up there. So Ben Hickman has stepped in with the videotape, so they're all our folks to get out early, and then Ben Hickman actually got went right there and turned on the projector. So it's actually some kind of presentation. So take care of it right as well. So with that, I would like to just remind you of some logistical issues. Okay, I'm going to stand right here. Some logistical things. You've got your sessions open on your laptops, hopefully, so you can see that. Those have been sent a couple of different times. We're already a little bit behind schedule, but we run, make it happen. And please help your facilitators stay on time so that we can get both sessions in today before 2:45. Make sure that you have signed in according to the secondary schedule and/or when the elementary teachers get here, we can remind them to sign in, so I'll be talking to them directly. If you are joining a Zoom session, new this year, we have a few Zoom sessions with folks outside of the district. Nick Van Oss is on Zoom. We have an EDM staff developer. That doesn't apply to you because you're not elementary. If you're doing Zoom, it's really you're going to log on to find a space in the building during that session and then listen in. And that, I think, is it for reminders. Jen or Kelly, did I miss anything? All right, we hope you enjoy this co-learning today. I'm going to turn it over to Heidi Phelps, who came to me in the fall with some of her great thinking around how we could continue learning together around universal supports based on the work that we have done so far to continue to help meet the needs of our diverse learners. And I'm very appreciative that Heidi, in conjunction with Trish Fair, who could not be here today, are able to lead us in some learning in this first shared session. So I'll turn it over to Heidi.
Hi everyone. So for those who don't know me, Heidi Phelps here, I've been in the district now for 9 years as a life skills resource room teacher, previously at the middle school and now at the high school. So many faces here I actually saw. Trish Fair, who was my partner in this, unfortunately couldn't be here today. But before we get started, I did want to share with you kind of the purpose and the drive that Trish and I had earlier this year and kind of the motivation we had, because we were given this opportunity to right before Christmas at our building to present, to really go over kind of these key concepts that throughout the years in our district we hear. From DEI, culturally responsive, inclusion, how are we using our 4Cs, our compass, all of these different concepts that it can get really overwhelming, nerve-wracking, frustrating, because it seems like we're jumping, when really we're not. We're utilizing all of these universal supports that we can implement. And so our purpose today is we want to bridge all of these supports and terms to help you all have a better opportunity to use them in your classroom to support all of your learners, no matter their background, their culture, their identity, or even their learning needs. And so I'm going to challenge you throughout today to kind of stop and pause, and we'll have those moments to self-reflect, to think about how you can have these advancements in your class starting on Tuesday when we're back, per pending cold day. Okay, so pending the full day. And I apologize, I've never presented in this large of a group, so I do have notes. So when I look down for a second, it's not to avoid, I promise. So when we look at this map, we can kind of navigate to see where we're at. And we should be able to look at it and identify that we really want to get to that level 5 mastery level within our classroom. But what we need to do is first really consider, again, all the things we've been talking about through the years, from all of our building meetings, cross-district meetings, department meetings, curriculum meetings, all of it, right? Our jobs are not easy. They're very intense. We don't actually have summers off. All of us are always working and constantly looking to gain more access to resources and opportunities so we can do better at our job, so our students succeed. So when we look at this, I want you to take a minute and look, as I look up, it's kind of so straight up, is to look at this map and think about yourself and your role, your department, your building, and us as a district, and where we're at currently, again, with that UDL, so the Universal Design for Learning supports. Then consider yourself when you're thinking personally and professionally, what does it look like when you're teaching, when you're giving that instruction, when you're planning for the instruction, and when you're collaborating? We're going to probably be all over the board because we have so many teachers here and so many years of service. From 1 year to 30 years, we're all over. And that's okay. What we want to do is make sure that we're starting on small steps and going forward and not back. So if we look at this, if you can see, I don't know if it's readable, but when we look, you can see that there is a man up here who is shoveling. And instead of starting on the ramp, which included everyone to go into the building, he created a barrier. And that barrier is for patients and not allowing every individual to go on. So this is something many of us do subconsciously without even knowing, and we don't even realize it in our own classrooms, in our day-to-day lives. We don't recognize sometimes the barriers that we put on for ourselves or for others. And so what's important is when we're going through today to pause, and I'll say that a lot in this presentation, but to pause and identify when we make a barrier that we need to make that change and that shift. And sometimes, because it's natural, we'll resist. I know for me, I don't like a lot of change all at once sometimes. So taking those small steps. And so if this guy had simply just moved over and done the ramp, everyone could have gone on and been on their way. But instead there was a barrier created. And so if we utilize this and consider UDL in this comment, we could have said UDL is a faster, more efficient way of teaching, or sometimes getting our job done. For instance, this man shoveling the pathway. Yeah. Are you sure? I don't mind. Okay. Barriers. So I want everyone to consider the different barriers we have to implement when we want to use UDL fully. Okay, when we're in our classroom. To meet the, again, DEI, culturally responsive, inclusion, the standards, the state standards you have, especially at the secondary level, all that competition. What are some of the barriers we have as a district or in our classroom or buildings? And I'm going to ask for anyone who wants to participate to truly just shout it out. What are some of the barriers? Because I have mine, but I don't want to speak for all of you or our district. So what are some barriers you may have or have seen? You can literally shout them out.
Class sizes.
Time.
The middle school copiers.
Middle school copy room, yeah. High school copy rooms, I will say, yeah, long it down, right? Say it again, breakout spaces. Yeah. Class size, absolutely, which is a huge thing, and that's going to be a part of this piece. So when we look at some of the barriers we have, and things that I've had in conversations with other colleagues, there's definitely this pattern of rigor as far as what we're meeting in our curriculum, those high expectations we have for ourselves as a district that then have to carry over to our students. The importance of resources. Do we have all the resources, or do we know how to get to those accessible resources? And time, that is a huge one. And then perhaps sometimes maybe even consider the lack of training or knowledge or awareness sometimes, especially when there's new concepts that arise, because as the world shifts into different views, our buildings shift because we're helping raise human beings to be accessible and culturally responsive adults. And so these aspects of barriers are not just at the instructional level. These barriers that we talk about are at every level that truly is a systemic problem. So it's barriers from a bottom-up approach. So those paraprofessionals we have in our buildings, our teachers, and administration. We face barriers in every way. So we need to be able to fix this, and we actually can. I promise you that you'll see by the end today that it is really simple in most of our jobs to be able to support all of our students in a really simplistic way. So Trish Fair found this really good article, and you'll see a link towards the end of this presentation with it. It was written by Dr. Eric J. Moore, and I really love this quote. And it simply says, UDL absolutely does not reduce the rigor of curriculum. In fact, the implementation of UDL is intended to enable and encourage greater rigor than what is afforded by traditional instruction. So I want you to think, what does traditional instruction look like? When I think of traditional, I truly think back to when I was in high school, or really any level, and even at college level. I'm going to stand up here, kind of what I'm doing today, but I'm trying to add in a little bit of fun or a little bit of excitement with a large group of people. But I stand here, you write your notes, even though I'm going to read word from word up on the power screen. Raise your hand if you've had a class like that ever in your life. Yeah, a lot of hands. And I would probably guarantee that some of us do it still, and that's okay. But what's important is that we recognize that, and we can bend it a little bit even to make that small step so we can support all of our students. And so it sounds simple when we read it, but it can be, but we have to continue to face these barriers and acknowledge that. It's a lot to do, sorry. All right, rigor as methods and materials. So here we're going to discuss that, and we can demonstrate learning through it. When we talk about rigor, okay, it is this high expectation. A lot of times when we do rigor, and we think of our methods and the content and materials, a lot of times we may become traditional, plateaued, and become limited. When I think of rigorous material, I think of very simple, explicit, and sometimes non-explicit paper for every single student. There's no differentiation. There's no collaboration, right? And when we're doing that, when we're handing out these materials, I want you to think of what we're actually assessing. Are we assessing how the student is learning, or just simply what they're obtaining? Because if I look around this common area, all of us are different learners. Like, I feel like that's a fact. In my opinion, that's a fact. We're all different learners. We have auditory learners, visual learners, hands-on manipulative learners. So who's to say our students aren't like that? We have to be able to bend sometimes what I think should be normal and bend to fit that student need. To a certain degree, absolutely. But there definitely is a bend that we have to give as instructors, and so those students know that they can learn that way. There's no one way of learning. And that's really what UDL is about. When we talk about rigor, it really is saying, here's a standardized way of teaching, and this is what we're gonna do. We're not in a world of standardized anymore. We're in a world of diversity. We're in a world of flexibility, and so we have to meet there. Even if we're not used to it, which can be scary, we have to be able to bend to that. Rigor is outcomes. So the article that Dr. Moore presents talks about the outcome of rigor. And when we're doing the outcome of rigor, connect it to the methods and materials. When we do that, the rigor becomes, again, with outcome, we're assuming. We're setting over exceeding expectations based on assumptions. We're assuming that the students all know how to read at the same grade level. We're assuming the students can differentiate the numbers 6 and 9. We're assuming that students can all write or type at the same speed with the same accuracy. We're assuming students can memorize a whole 5-paragraph quote. So when we talk about rigor, we're going to assume, and I really like in the yellow where it says, to keep rigor, we reduce it by either excluding who achieves the outcomes or by scaling back the outcomes themselves. I don't really like that. I think that's not accurate whatsoever. In many cases, we do that currently, but we don't have to. We don't have to change the rigor necessarily, and we definitely don't need to be scaling back or reducing what students are receiving. It's just a switch change of how we're presenting it to our students in our classes, which can be hefty at first, so that's why you have to consider starting small. Start with one action, and I will challenge that today for you to start on Tuesday. Time. There's not enough time in the world, I feel like. Personally, as a mom, a full-time worker, and I would say a mom to a highly energized bunny of a child, for those who do know him, he's chaotic, love him dearly, but chaos. And a full-time student, there's not enough time. But we have to make time. We have to be able to sit down, even 5 minutes a day, to be able to do this. So when Trish and I began this conversation, we were constantly having conversations, and we would get very passionately frustrated, overwhelmed, and confused, because even though we didn't have enough time, we knew that we wanted our district to know and to acknowledge that we need the time and we need to move forward while remaining on this platform of that UDL practice, that support for every student, which, remember, includes all those terms, again, DEI, when we've had Shannon Washington present, when we had to talk about inclusion, when we talk about 4 C's and our compass, we really need to look at that. And so, when we do that, to help alleviate time, you have to reinvent the wheel. And when we reinvent the wheel, that 100%, in my opinion, will save time. Utilize technology and collaborate, and really, from all of those pieces, starting small. If we don't start at all, then what are we doing? What's the purpose or intent of our instruction? If we can't change or start small, we're plateauing and becoming that new traditional rigor. Our buildings are full of so many outstanding educators. Again, from 30 years to 15 to 2 years of instruction, and the demand for instruction has changed even within the last 3 years. Even since the pandemic, instruction demand has changed drastically. And change is scary. I actually read a really good article talking about resistance in organizations and really looking at education because it's shifted so drastically. but how we as teachers, as leaders, as support staff, have to be okay, and that can be a mental reset. We have to be okay, though, to say, I can do this one thing, and then build on that. I can do this, because if I don't, again, what is the purpose of my job? I'm just instructing the same thing to the same student, even though each year we get different students, or every trimester, every hour, we get new students. And so the demand is really big, and it can be scary. But again, I'm gonna challenge you, again, keep saying it, to start small, and start by Tuesday. Sorry. So throughout this time, I've continued to state that UDL statement, right? And we finally made it to this point, which is great. And so when we talk about UDL, there's really 3 categories that really encompass those supports. So it's engagement, action and expression, and representation. So I want you to think about, how does your room look right now when a student walks in? Let's reflect and consider this. Is your room welcoming? What's your furniture look like? We have a great district that we've had so many grants done to get flexible seating in our buildings. We've had opportunity to get new technology in our rooms. So think of your room. Is it inviting? Do you have visuals, posters up? What's the lighting look like? Do you have flexible seating? Do you have stationary seating? Are you putting students all in one group? Say within special education, are they at one table? Because that's, or are they blended in your room? So when we, and do you provide breaks? I know for me in my classroom, I love to give breaks in between a task. So say for example, and you'll see it in a minute, I present on addition for my students, or money math. After I present, I give them a mental reset, I give them a break. Even a 1-minute break, I cannot explain to you how amazing that is for my students. How much more focused they are to the lesson after that reset. 5 minutes, awesome. 10 minutes is probably personally my max for my students with those breaks between tasks. But it truly helps getting that reset, because all of us, we're presenting every day, all day long in our classrooms. I don't know about you, but I need a break. I love breaks. And I'm going to assume and say that you need a break as well. Not just from planning and not just during passing time or lunch, but in that instruction. When we talk about action and expression, how are you presenting your lessons? Again, usually in my class, I'm much more actively moving around the room. This is a pretty large space though, so I don't feel like walking and, yeah. But I'm presenting that. I try to make it fun. I know as secondary sometimes, I know it's more of a thing that says like secondary can be more just straight to the point because you have so much to get through. But make it engaging. And we can make it engaging through videos. I'm a huge fan of finding educational YouTube components. So after I teach, I show a lesson or a video that connects to that content. Because students then are able to hear it again, they can visualize it, and they can read it. Because I put closed caption on it, which that is a huge, easy step right away, closed caption on all of your videos. And then when we look at representation, do you have visuals throughout your room? Or a library? A very nice DEI library where it has all these different components and concepts. And we can do it at the secondary level even. Say you're a science teacher. Get a little bookshelf, put some books of science materials up there, fun ones. Like I think of Bill Nye, National Geographic. Just fun things that students can flip through during a downtime. Or especially when there's a sub there, they'll have access to other content area. History gets more National Geographic books. Get historical books. The sky's the limit with those pieces. Because when I think of visuals, I don't just think of books. I think of labels, especially in the position I'm in with my life skill friends. We visualize everything. There's visuals for everything. We can make one. But when you get into more general rooms, think of what you're putting in your room. Make it conscientious. I can't say that word. Hopefully you get what I mean. But do that, and you're going to see a huge difference. And students will start to engage in those concepts and learn more from it. All right, so let's take a look at this comic. And it simply says, all right, guys, I'm only going to say this once. Can you all take out your, now I can't read it, math books, and turn to page 12. What do we do? What did the teacher say? I'm stuck. What page are we on? I'm pretty sure many of you could relate to this, even sometimes myself. So a teacher who instructs with clear, explicit directions or assignments, that equals UDL. When I do something like this in my class, I will put it on the screen. I make sure my friends have all of their eyes and ears on the speaker, which is me, and are ready to listen and engage. Then I give the instruction, and right away the students are already engaged and turning to that page. When we do something like this, this is really delaying time and creating a barrier for us. And so we need to be able to use those 4 steps of starting small, collaborating, using our technology, and reinventing the wheel. And when I say reinvent the wheel, if I need something from a history class, I may go down to the hall and ask some of my colleagues, which, thank you, Jared Falkowski, I don't know where you're at, because you'll see a lesson that I will be presenting today. I went to him, got content. I'm going to use my resources. Go to, if you have students on IEPs or 504s, go to the special ed department. Go to a colleague, ask them. Special ed colleagues, go to the content-driven teachers. We are the experts in our fields. You all are experts in your content. So we should be able to utilize that and collaborate. All right, so consider these what-ifs. If you have students at all different levels of reading, instead of providing the same material to every student, and except 504s or IEPs, because that's mandated, right? Should be doing that already. Okay, do you differentiate your instruction? What if instead of assuming everyone learns the same way, you provide options? So all of the students have access to the audio. All of the students have access to the read-alouds, to highlighting, perhaps, passages, to then have students listen to audio and read. It's really that simple when you provide those pieces. Providing checklists, a to-do list each hour, which some of this may be simple, but we have to stop and think about it and start that small step. When we do these pieces, we're going to be able to see a huge growth of student learning and feeling that they are supported in their class. So what I want to show you, there we go. All right, so here I made a big, I'm going to blow it up as best as possible. It'll take a few seconds, but what I did here is I made a lesson plan. Again, thank you, Jared, who gave me content on the U.S. Constitution. Thank you. And as you see, there's 3 different levels. Level 3 is grade level. Level 2 is where it's more of a few lower grade levels, maybe resource room students who may need additional support. And level 1 is where I'm really looking at significantly below grade level. And so what I want to show you is I am going to click on this, because what I did is I kind of made a lesson. We're obviously not going to go through everything. But when I do this in my class, this is how I'm going to say you're my class of many people. This seems silly, but I promise you it truly does work as someone who's had fun at time and has had gen ed students in their class. Okay? Is before I start class, I may have students come in listening to calm music and then get started. I then have them say, all right, I need everyone's attention over here. I need your eyes up here on the speaker, Our brain is thinking about what's being said, and our body's calm and quiet while our mouth is quiet as well. Okay? I can add more visuals, which I do for elementary and for my students, but I can literally put the picture of eyes, right? You can get a little bit more creative. When I do that, as I said that, I truly did see more eyes pop up and start to focus on me over here, who's been talking for a long time. Okay? This is, whoops, it's not here. There we go. Okay? We're going to talk about the U.S. Constitution today, everybody. And here's our group plan. Today we're going to learn the articles, we're going to learn the sections, make a connection, we're going to review it, and then you're going to have independent work. So, emerging politicians. So in this example, I would probably have more content to say, but for our time purpose, I'm not going to actually teach you about the Constitution, so be thankful. Okay, but when I do a review, what I did is I linked a video. So students then, we're going to watch this. I've talked your ear off, let's watch something now. When I move on, I then show a preamble. Because I know at high school, they have to be able to recite it. Or write it, one of the two. But a UDL practice of that is, do they have to recite it? Why don't they, how about they could choose between reciting, writing, fill in the blank, for those options? Why are we limiting it to one? We can expand it for when we're doing our assignments. Then I made connections. Okay, notice there's some pictures of free speech, the right to vote, inclusion of all in schools and in our systems of work and organization. And then for the independent work, my students are going to pick. They get to pick 2 videos on the left and 3 small activities that are on the right. They get to choose what they're wanting to do, and they're all at different levels. And that you will be able to see on your links of it as well through this piece. And I even lowered it as well that for some of our students, there's materials on anything and everything on the website that you can, on the internet that you can find. There we go. Okay. So, with that, I do want to thank you guys because, one, you're all experts in your field. And so when we do this, we're going to take that small step. So I want you to consider, with the last few minutes we have, to really talk to people around you and engage of what small steps can you start on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, depending whole days, of what UDL practice you can take. If you, and you'll get this on by Kara later, but if we jump back to this piece where we talk about the categories, I challenge you to choose one of these to start on Monday. Tuesday, thank you. I keep saying Monday. I should say Wednesday is what I should say. But choose one of these to start on Tuesday. And then hopefully, as you do that, you're going to see the simplicity of it and move forward and do more and more and more until you've gotten to that mastery level of 5 in our rooms. So go ahead and turn and talk. You'll have about 3 minutes to kind of think of small steps, and then I want to hear some shout-outs. Okay. Okay. Go ahead and start wrapping up. And I'm going to ask for everyone's attention over here. Again, remember your eyes are over here on the speaker. Our mouths are quiet. Our brain is thinking about what's about to be said. And our body's calm and quiet. That worked pretty well. I have to admit, nice job. So what are some of the things that were discussed? Go ahead and shout them out. What are some of the small steps that you can start on Tuesday? What's one?
Taking breaks in class.
Taking breaks in class, yeah. Yeah.
Natalie is going to show me how to use my microphone.
How do you use your microphone? Yes. Which, to be fair, the microphone is really intimidating, I feel like, for many of us, because it sounds, we're just so amplified. I always feel like my colleagues in the hall can hear us. I know they hear my students. I don't need them to hear me constantly. But if If you close the door and have it somewhat low, it's okay. What are other small steps we can take? Anyone? For me, one thing I've added are fidgets. That's another piece. We have a huge population of students, no matter IEP or not, that have hidden disabilities of, say, ADHD, right? Many of us have those tendencies of just anxiousness. I get fidgety. When I get fidget, I tap my leg a lot, or tap my foot. As I look around, I see it happening. And some of our students don't know how to cope with that, how to manage. So when we put fidgets in our rooms, in all of our rooms, that's a simple way of students to learn how to cope, how to reset their body, so they stay attentive to you. So I challenge you to think about everything that was said today and shared. I appreciate your attendance here. And on this, you'll see the resource page. There's websites and links. I always think of secondary, you may not know, and maybe you do, and it's so great. Teachers pay teachers. Everything in the lesson plan that I share with you today that I found was all free from Jared's lesson. Right, so all of those pieces, he gave me where I needed to start. I tiered it down, and it was all free. So not everything is as hard as it needs. Then there's articles, and the what is rigor is what was referenced today. And then if you feel like you would like to, there will be a few winners, potentially for something really, really cool. Not potentially, there will be. If you scan this QR code and do just a quick feedback, that would be fantastic to help us move forward in our district. Thank you.